Well, I was scared of a gay guy, and I did not want to admit it. Okay? I was scared. I never had nobody like that overpower me the way he did.
Help Sean murder Fred. It was a shock to hear that. The only thing that he told me was that he bug smashed him, like a bug on your windshield. At that moment, it was chaos in my own mind. That's the best way that I can explain it.
I just knew he'd slap him or like push his head or, and call him gay, call him just for a laugh. My brother called me and told me that they found Fred dead. My mama gave me a hug. Told me she was sorry. And we just hugged and cried. That's how I found out. We went to where his body was, and they suggest that I don't look at it. But I wanted to see. I was hoping that I would see my son the way he was. But it didn't turn out that way. If I had a gun, I would just go shoot his head off. That's what I said. I want to see how he feels, what he did to my baby and stuff. I like to look at his photos, and every morning I would say, I hope you're doing okay, son, up there, being a precious angel. That's what I always say. Mm-hmm. That's how he was. Then he loved to take pictures of Mom. I'm taking a picture with me and Mom, he would always be saying. I was a single parent. I actually had 6 boys, but Fred was the youngest. He was a cheerful, friendly person. Always wanted to make friends. He used to wear cowboy boots, cowboy hat. And just glide down to him with his cheeks. And I like his dimple too. Every time, Wait. He would say, I want to learn how to cut hair, or I would learn how to be a clothing designer. Why? And then he was wearing woman's stuff, He finally said, this is the way I'm going to be. I like being this way. Or Navajo, they call it natle. The word means two-spirit, natle. Fred wanted to be a girl and wanted to be a boy. So that's why they call it two-spirit. One time we were all home, he told us all to get in the front room, and he says, I want to tell you guys something. He says, you see me this way, and this is how I'm going to be, and this is how I'm going to look. Well, his older brother told him, you better be careful out there. In Cortez, Colorado, some and some don't, so. Well, I was afraid of him being the way he wants to be, But I never figured, that something like this would happen to Fred. I'm looking at the rock he used on Fred. I just don't see how a person could just take somebody and hurt them, hit him with a rock in the head and then just go about his night. The head meant damage. Oh, Fred looked beautiful. He was very confident in himself, but kids at school would just call him names and just put him down. He wouldn't say anything to anybody, wouldn't tell him to screw off, nothing. I think Fred wouldn't fight back because he was scared. He was just scared they would hurt him. I was very protective over Fred. Fred was very, gentle, and see people pick on him. It pissed me off. I'd stand up for him because he wouldn't. Fred stayed with me a lot. All the time, pretty much. It was me and him. Whenever me and Fred would talk about how we'd be when we'd get older, would just be, he'd be an auntie to my kids. But whatever it was always me and him together. Every year around June we have a carnival and rodeo. It's for 3 days. And that year we were excited to go to the carnival. So yeah, we were just happy. Life was great. And Saturday at the carnival, we weren't there that long when he said he was going to go home because he wasn't feeling good. And I said, okay. We just said our goodbyes and we gave each other a hug. And then before me and my boyfriend were leaving the carnival, somebody came up to me and told me that they seen Fred at a party that they just left. And when I heard that, I just thought that son of a bitch lied to me. I was mad. He was my friend's house. I knew the house where he was at, and I knew those kind of people. People that would hurt Fred, pick on Fred, just to get a laugh. I just knew they'd be cruel, maybe slap him or push his head or, and call him gay, call him pick on him. Didn't want them to do any of that for him because I know how hard he takes it. But I didn't really have a bad feeling that something would, really bad happen to him.
That's my cousin. Sean made a mistake and he's paid his debt to society. I think it's important not to view him as a monster because anybody is capable of hurting another human being and making that awful mistake. At any point, somebody can make that decision to hurt somebody else. I believe the first time me and Sean met were in our teens.
Yeah, it's me, the wonderful Sean Murphy.
Well, we're not blood cousins, but we grew up calling each other cousins. We definitely came from the same type of neighborhoods and same upbringing. The neighborhoods I grew up in were pretty rough. You had to defend yourself. There was always a fight around the corner. Drugs did drugs.
And if you don't like it, turn off TV.
Fighting. Lots of fighting.
You see? It's beautiful.
I was born into that world. You didn't realize that there was anything wrong until you got out and away from it.
This one goes in one closet, this one goes in the other closet, and that's the end of my...
This whole thing together. I just put this whole thing together.
What do you mean? Explain. What do you mean you just put this whole thing together?
Y'all accusing me of murder. Growing up the way that we did, you don't talk to police. You don't give them anything. But the police told me that they believed that I helped Sean murder Fred. And they made it very clear that I could be going away for a very long time. The rest of my life.
Of high school is when Fred changed his look, the bandana, the makeup. That's when he started with the bra and stuff. We were running towards each other in the high school field, and I'm like, Fred, when did you get those? And he was proud. He was happy with it. He just seemed more comfortable. And, you know, that was a way he came out that gave him confidence to actually say, you know, I'm gay. After he tried to commit suicide by taking pills, I remember him laying in the bed because they had just got done pumping his stomach. It was sad. I was sad when I seen him in there like that. And he looked sad too. I think Fred always thought that was his out. If it got too much, was to do that. And he used to talk to me about that all the time, and I'd get mad at him for it. But I didn't really think he would actually ever do it because I was there to make him feel like a person.
Well, that night we were at a party, just drinking, smoking. I was in the kitchen playing poker. I remember noticing that Sean was on my side at the party. We'd been up together doing the same drugs. I just figured he was hanging out with somebody else, I guess. Didn't really put a lot of thought into it then. I wasn't aware of that until years later. We left the party, and I noticed that Fred was walking. I had never met him before. I don't remember specifics of the conversation. Hey man, you need a ride? It was a friendly vibe. We never asked people if they wanted a ride, you know. I got off the car to get stuff, and Sean stayed in the car. He just told me what he wanted instead of going and getting it himself. Talking, yeah. It looked like them having a conversation. And then when I got into the car, it was just quiet. You don't really think about it at the time, but years later, I'm like, why was it so quiet? When I got back in the car, I asked Fred where he needed to go. Figured once he was dropped off, that was the end of that story, you know. I was pretty tired. I figured we were just gonna crash. But Sean said he needed to go get Cortez that I couldn't go get weed from. So when I offered to go with him, And he was like, no, they don't want anybody there. It was a red flag, but under the circumstances, me being tired, being a long night, I blew it off. I couldn't even give you an educated guess on how long. The next thing I know, Sean comes into the house. He's covered in blood. I asked him what happened, and he just said that he smashed him.
Smashed who?
He didn't say. The only thing that he told me was that he bug smashed him. He didn't say much. He used the word him. I figured it was a fair fight between two guys. That was kind of our mentality, though, not to ask questions. All the blood was alarming. I didn't understand where it all came from. I knew it had to be something serious. At that moment, it was chaos in my own mind. That's the best way that I can explain it. And let me get rid of him. We put him in a bag, took him with us to New Mexico. Where a few days later, I tried to get rid of him.
The last night that I saw him was that he was leaving with some friends to the carnival and the rodeo, and he says, "Mom, I'm going to the carnival with my friends." I guess that's the last time I went to see him. He said, "Mom, I love you." When I woke up next morning, I looked down, checked in the bedroom, and he wasn't there. And that's when I told the boys, I said, "You have any idea where he's at? Where did he go? He didn't come home." And they said, "Well, he didn't come back last night." And I said, "Which friends did he go with?" I said, "Go ask around." So we started asking around. So I called about it to the police station. I called and called and called around. And we all looked around. Nothing. I said, "There's something wrong."
Well, is when Pauline called asking if Fred was at our house. And I told her, no, I haven't seen Fred since the carnival. When I really started to worry was when the paper came out, it said they found a grown man's body. And my mom was like, what if that's Fred? But people were mean, and like I said, I got mad when she said that what if that's Fred? I didn't want to think bad things, so it pissed me off when she told me that.
I was at work, and my boss came over and told me that there's some officer here to talk to you. I think you better sit down, he told me. And I said, just come out and tell me, what is it? And that's when they told me it was Fred's body that they found. There was some kids playing around, and they said they found out that it was him. They just said he's been there probably for quite a while. That's all I hear. And they identify him with his tooth. I said that I carried for 9 months. I said, why? He did nothing wrong. I would never get over this painful thing to go through, I said. I was lost. I was like, what am I supposed to do? Where do I start? All I did was cry, cry, cry.
My brother called me and told me that I better get a hold of Pauline because they found Fred dead. I called Pauline and I asked her what happened, and I said, did Fred commit suicide? And she started crying, saying, no, they killed my baby. Away like right after I was done talking to Pauline, and my mama gave me a hug. Told me she was sorry. Hugged and cried. That's how I found out.
I knew that they were investigating a murder in Cortez. I had no idea that it was Fred at all. My whole impression of a fight.
Cortez, how can I help you? Yes, I just want to tell you what I've heard about the murder of the boy. That Sean Murphy and Clint did it with a hammer. That's all I can say, and I don't want to get in trouble, so that's all I'm going to say. They were here for the carnival. Okay, look.
I'd been trying to get rid of the clothes for a while. I knew that they were evidence of whatever happened. And when Sean finally gave them to me, I got a ride immediately to take them out of the house. I threw them in a dumpster. And I think me and Sean were the last people to know that we were being sought after. I didn't know they were already following us. They were already watching.
Me and my mom went down there to where they found his body, and there was one of the things I was told is that there was a struggle. That's why there was bandanas thrown around. Fred used to fill up a bra with bandanas for his chest, so that's what those were. After going there and seeing where he got hit in the head with the rock, and that he could have been there for a couple of days just burning in the sun because he couldn't get up. I had nightmares about it. You know, I'd wake up scared and crying, you know, like my dream would be like Fred out there crying for me, you know, asking for me to help him, or him just crying laying there.
Well, I figured a dumpster toss was good enough instead of burning them. So after I threw the clothes, I made it back to the house, and I left again to go get some weed. When I walked out the door, there was a bunch of cops with their rifles on me. And he had me at gunpoint and told me to lie down on the ground. They put me in an interview room, handcuffed to the table, started questioning me. At first, I was quiet.
We had a homicide investigation. We talked to a bunch of people. It's a case up in Cortez up there. 15-year-old kid that got killed out there.
Yes, kid. No, I mean,
Well, you're one of two people that we're looking at right now real hard.
you're saying the other one's my cousin Sean? Yeah. I don't know what to tell you back.
I'll tell you what the problem we're going to have, my friend, is, like I said, we were watching you today, and one of the things that people saw you do is deposit some items in a dumpster. And if we find some blood belonging to the victim in our case up there, how much more do you think that we need than that to take you to court and probably convict you?
I mean, this is my life.
Why are you getting rid of your shoes? I'm sorry? Now's the time, man. Now's the time. Because what I saw today was you tossing a pair of shoes.
Tell us about that. Who are you doing the favor for? Hey, I understand loyalty and friendship.
At some point, the detective said something about spending the rest of my life in prison for killing a gay Native American boy, teenager. It was a shock to hear that.
What would you say was your reaction to finding out it was Fred?
This poor baby. The moment I knew that I would have to tell the truth was when the investigators told me that it was Fred.
Are you ready to go down for killing a 15-year-old kid? Were you there? Did you do it?
When he showed up covered in blood, that he had gotten into a fair fight with another guy and that he was the victor. And I was okay with that. But it wasn't until the police dragged us in and pointed out who the victim was that changed things. What Fred looked like. He was small. I'd even use the word petite. It wouldn't take much to overpower him in a fight. It went from a fair fight to an unfair fight, and a kid's life was lost.
I mean, as we sit here today, based on the conversations that you had with them, who killed Fred in your mind?
Killed Fred in my mind. Sean did.
I went against everything that it affected every decision I'd make after. And I had to live with it and carry it.
I had no clue.
And I'm just wondering if he ever said, more stuff after that, like, you remember that guy that we picked up? Or just...
Maybe Sean was mad because
You sure he didn't tell you, I'm gonna go kick somebody's ass, I'm pissed off about something, or I'm gonna go find this guy and make sure he knows I'm not gay, or...
I don't know what Sean was thinking. For me to answer that would be like putting words in his mouth.
I was scared of a gay guy, and I did not want to admit it, okay? I did what I had to do to get away. I was scared. I never had nobody like that overpower me the way he did.
We went to, they suggest that I don't look at it. They don't want me to look at it. But I wanted to see. I was hoping that I would see my son the way he was. To see him again. But it didn't turn out that way. He mashed his head in so many times with a rock until he killed him and left him out there for the animals to have him. If I had a gun, I would just go shoot his head off. That's what I said. I want to see how he feels, what he did to my baby, I said.
We went down to that canyon. I was like, why the go that way the down here? Why do you want me to come down here and smoke more with you? I was smoking more, you just getting me overpowered. He had me on the ground when we were I want to find out what he was trying to do to me. He hit me. It knocked me back, caught me off guard, took over power. I fell on some rocks and I was trying to hit him, off me. And he was overpowered me and he hit me a couple more times. And I hit him with a rock.
It's Fred. I really don't. Because Fred wasn't violent. It wouldn't have been him who started hitting Sean Murphy or something, Like I said, he wouldn't even stand up to people that were mean to him. I do have my own ideas of what happened, and I think Sean Murphy, that they were going to have a hookup down there. Couldn't think of anything of why he would be down there. He was so scared of the dark. That was his worst fear. The only reason Fred would go down there is to have a hookup, like sexual relations with Sean Murphy. That's the only reason. If they did or didn't, I don't know, but that's the only way Fred would have went down there. I know that for a fact.
A good friend of Fred's knew him to have hookups. It's possible with Sean down there for a hookup.
The events of that night are still a big puzzle. I don't have all the facts. I don't know everything that went on. They said that it isn't with a rock. His blood turned the dirt into mud. I was just asking why. I didn't understand why that would have happened. I can only account for myself. It changed my life. I mean, I'm here 20 years later and it's still affecting every decision that I make. For my The last time I spoke to Sean was the day that we were arrested. I've been sober for 4 years. And, I haven't been in a fist fight for 5. I'm pretty proud of that. I do believe that Sean regrets what he did. I hope that he's at peace with things. I hope that he's enjoying life and that be happy. And I hope you guys use that.
I hope the show just makes other people realize just because somebody's, and when you say names, and it might be a joke to you, but it's not. It's not to that person. When Sean Murphy took Fred out of this world. He took, not just my best friend. He just took my person, Still to this day, it kills me that I don't have Fred here.
I can't answer why Sean killed my son. I can't answer. I don't know why. And I keep thinking about, I wonder if he knew him or what, I keep thinking about. I lost my job. I lost everything. Everything I had, down to nothing. And then I got in a bad accident. And the doctors put me all back together. After I got better, I got cancer survived too. I say, why all this suffering? Why do I have to go through this? And then again, I always think that it must be my prayer. Somebody up there loves me, keeps me going. To go to California. That was his dream. He said, I'm going to California. I'm going to ride him in a limousine. A long black one, he would say. You watch me, I'll do it. He would say that. I went to Hollywood. I rode in a black limousine for him.
I'm laughing at his acting job. He's not even good at it.
I haven't been out here very often, but occasionally I just like to because, I don't know, I just sort of like feel her more here than I did in the cemetery. It's almost like you can feel her presence out here. She's happy. It is peaceful. It is. First date between Stephen and Trisha. She was 17 or 18 in that picture. Sometimes you just meet someone and you just have a caution about them. He wasn't really friendly. You would think that if you're going to date somebody's daughter, you would be friendly with the parents. You would smile. You would maybe joke. Your eyes might twinkle or something. Just kind of deadpan. And that just... I don't remember when I learned that things were serious. They must have had more of a relationship than showed to me. She was a private person. She made up her own mind about me that they went off and had their own little wedding. That's about all I knew about it. I felt bad for her when I heard that because I know she would have enjoyed having a normal wedding. But she's Trisha. She will do what she will do. Trisha wanted to be a mother so badly, and she was just so happy in every stage of it. And then when that little girl was born, she was such a treasure to her. She would hardly put her down until I said, Trisha, if you want that little one to learn to crawl, you're going to have to put her on the floor sometimes.
This is a photo of my sister at my brother's wedding. Trisha was just really adventuresome and a really sweet girl. She was a lot of fun. Trisha joined the Air Force out of high school. She went to basic training and stuff, and then when she got out, we just heard that she was married. I think there was just a little bit of family drama, and there wasn't another good place to go, and then I think it just took a little bit of stress off of everybody. It was a good chance for me to go see my sister, and then my sister also wanted to be in her younger brother's life. She had built a path in life, and she was doing great. Me and Steven would play video games together a lot. I would say he would strike you as a nerd, as like a strong, well-put-together nerd. I always thought he was really smart. He was really friendly, and, I looked up to him back then. At the time, he had been deployed as an F-16 mechanic, so honor to do that. And then he'd have to leave for a week or 2 weeks at a time for work. I know that traveling for long periods of time for work can be hard on a relationship. They were pretty happy together, but I don't think that was very far into their marriage. And I think their marriage was happier at the start, for sure.
The case started in his words, a bad feeling about the situation. On April 27th, family could not locate Trisha. Her car was found with the keys to the ignition next to the residence that she was living at the time in Florida. Her purse was in the vehicle, her wallet was missing, and her cell phone was missing. That obviously sent up alarm bells relatively quickly for the family. Road Patrol deputy reported from there. Really, you're just a missing person at that point. Nothing more, nothing less. Trisha was known for going on nature hikes, long walks, and within a couple of days missing. They had all-terrain vehicles out in rural parts of the county. It was a massive search. The air units were up looking in rural areas that were difficult to reach by motor vehicle. So between the volunteers and really the entire agency of the Martin County Sheriff's Office being involved in an all-out search for her, this really became big local news. But they were very quickly running into a dead end. And about 5 days without any further knowledge of where Trisha was, we had a meeting. We were very quickly becoming concerned that there was foul play involved. It's not a stretch of the imagination for me to say that when a woman goes missing, it often turns out to be foul play, and that the person involved is either the husband, the boyfriend, the ex-husband, or the ex-boyfriend. I would say everybody in the room knew that the person responsible for her disappearance was Stephen Williams. My boss very matter-of-factly stated, "Why aren't we in North Carolina?"
The first years of Trisha's marriage, they're in the Air Force. So when you're in the Air Force, you go where the Air Force sends you. And when she would come home, she would talk positively about positive things. I didn't know anything was wrong. She was very good at hiding how she felt. I didn't know the worst of it for a long time. Trisha was, I'm sure, very nervous about Stephen's upcoming visit because this is the first. It was the first time after the divorce that he was allowed by the military to actually come down and actually have an in-person visit with his little girl. And then it was going to be an overnight visit for her daughter. That little girl was a big red flag to me. And when I first knew something was wrong was the next day when Trisha did not pick up her little girl from the babysitter. Now that would tell all of us that something was wrong. And I think at that point, that's when we called the police.
They brought everyone in for questioning. They brought my dad. They brought, everyone who, I think a lot of people had a lie detector test, including my dad, myself, some of my brothers. I don't think they had any leads. They were trying to chase everything and find something. I didn't suspect Stephen at all. I didn't know what had happened between him and my sister, but I just always really kind of had respect for him. And my only experience had been really positive with him. But other people did suspect Stephen. Came back and they were like, well, he's pretty clear. We're going to leave him alone. But it speaks to how much mystery there was at the time and how nobody had any answers and they were just searching for anything.
The Martin County Sheriff's Office had only spoken with Mr. Williams over the telephone. Within the first day or two, down from North Carolina, where he was in the Air Force, he had rented an Airbnb so that he could spend some time with their child. We know that Trisha had gone to the house that Stephen had rented based on his statement that he gave. The child had been dropped off. He mentioned that she was about to leave. She noticed that her fuel tank was pretty much on empty, obtained gasoline for her at a local gas station, returned, put gas in her car. She left, and that was the last he saw her. As far as we knew, the last person to see Trisha was her ex. Result, he very quickly became a person of interest. A decision was made by the sheriff's office that they were going to drive up. We arrived there quite early in the morning. We knocked on the door. He answered the door. From my vantage point, he did seem somewhat surprised that we were there. He went for an interview. But his story was more or less the same that he had already provided to the family, as well as to us. But when he was asked if he would agree to submit to a polygraph examination, he declined, which certainly raised alarm bells with me, and he left to head back. Not long thereafter, he had called in and decided that he was willing to do it. He changed his mind. I was stunned that he changed his mind and agreed to do it. And now, of course, what's going through my mind is maybe he isn't involved. I mean, who would submit to a polygraph if you are involved? He sat for the polygraph. Mr. Williams appeared to me to be calm. Do you know where Trisha Todd is? No. Did you have any involvement in the disappearance of Trisha Todd? No. Surprisingly enough, the polygraph came back as inconclusive. And frankly, the polygraph examiner confided in me, said, look, maybe this guy's telling the truth, which I couldn't believe it. Honestly, I thought we were That was a long drive home from North Carolina. I'm not just talking about the drive time. It was a lot of conversation in the car, a lot of phone calls being made back home. What are we going to do? What's our next move? I don't believe that we were thinking we were going to find her alive. At that point, I felt as though this was now a long shot.
Trisha didn't hardly talk about what had happened until she left him. That's when things started coming out. She said when he would come back from his deployment, she would go to the airport to pick him up, and but he obviously didn't care about hurting her. Frankly, I think that would have been a good time to say goodbye, Stephen. But she hung on. I think Trisha let out her feelings more on her live journal, which had a password on it, so we couldn't see it. I think that was her way of letting some of this stuff out. She had two of the cutest little dogs, and this is their picture here, Cecil and Charlie. Charlie died from a kick in the abdomen. The story was a car hit him. My neighbor helped me bury him while Stephen played video. Her neck was accidentally broken. Macy and Tiger both were poisoned slowly. Peanut beat to death with a crutch. I couldn't make an excuse for him that time. It takes a truly evil person to kill such a sweet kitten. I finally saw him for what he was, coldly, while I cried my eyes out cleaning up the blood. Yeah, that's terrible. That is really terrible, and I'm sure it broke her heart.
So the sheriff's office conducted an exceedingly exhaustive investigation here in this case. They track a neighbor living in one of the homes around the rented home that Mr. Williams was at. Did tell us that Mr. Williams did approach at very late in the evening. He was looking for a gas can, and when they didn't have one, he then indicates to us, well, I went down to the gas station. We were able to get the video of that. And then that story corroborated something that he told us between the neighbors and the video at the gas station. One of the tools that we had at our disposal were a business that was near the Airbnb that Mr. Williams had rented. On that video camera, we believed we could make out at a point roughly 4 o'clock in the morning on April 27th, there is a figure that is walking along the road that would be coming from Trisha Todd's residence towards, could not make out who this individual was, but based on the height of the individual as well as how heavy the appearance of the individual was, it could very well have been Mr. Williams. They confronted him with some of the video evidence, and during this for the first time. And for the first time, the version of the events were he left to get the gas. Upon his return to the Airbnb, he went into the residence. Trisha was down unconscious with a head wound or a gash. His version is it appeared to him that she had fallen down, that for whatever reason, he panicked and he was uncertain if she was dead or not, but he did not think she was. And what he did was he loaded her body into her vehicle, drove the vehicle to a rural road, positioned her body on the side of the road, leaving her wallet so that in the event she became conscious, she would have the means and the ability to get help or transportation.
Okay, so you come back and then...
She stays in here while I go and get gas. And then I come back, I come back inside. I figured she'd still be here or wherever, but she wasn't. So...
Where was she?
She was in here and she was playing this way. I couldn't even touch her initially because I didn't even know what to do. I just kind of paced and tried to figure out what I was supposed to do. didn't know if I should call anyone because all I thought about was, great, I call the police and they show up, and then how does this look? You know, it's just unconscious on a bedroom floor. Like, how does that look? You know, how do you explain that?
I didn't believe that story, but we still did not have enough to arrest him. And unless we had a body where a medical examiner could engage in a full forensic examination of the remains, and we didn't have anything else to go on.
Where did you pull off to the side of the road? Is looking familiar? Did you put her by the water?
I don't remember there being any water. If I knew where,
You do know.
I would take you
Steven,
right there.
you do not take us to her as if something else happened at house, and you're not telling me. Where did you take her to?
I don't know.
The narcissist tells these stories thinking that we're going to believe them. Someone who has an oversized sense of their own intellect and intelligence.
So your daughter's gonna grow up knowing that Dad got rid of Mom's body. That's what your daughter's gonna grow up.
I don't know the first thing about any of that.
We knew Trisha Todd was dead. We just didn't know how. We didn't know where. And we weren't going to let this go. For the next few hours, we drove around relatively aimlessly, I thought. I did not think he would say, it looks like the area, this could be it. It never was. We went back to the sheriff's office. We placed him in an interview room. Multiple people attempted to have a conversation with him, confront him with the fact that we did not believe his entire story. And we called at that point the state attorney. He would go with a fresh new detective, and hopefully a new face would jog something.
So what do you want me to tell you? What do you want me to tell you, Dad?
I want you to tell me the truth.
I'm telling you, I didn't hurt this woman.
Okay.
Never did anything to injure her or hurt her. My only mistake is I didn't just accept that this is the situation and call 911. That's what I should have done. I just panicked.
I need you to tell me the truth about what happened. I know you did, but it's not something that's you can like weigh you down for the rest of your life.
So yeah, she came over, talking about nonsense and bringing up child support, and then she's just going on and on about now I owe her more money and back child support. It just got so aggressive, and I'm just trying to back away and de-escalate, and I can't even leave the house now, pushing me back, and it just escalated, and then I just moved her away, and then she slipped, and that's when she freaking fell, and I'm like, oh, I asked her if she was okay. It was like a weird sound. She didn't say anything though, and then I freaking panicked. I just tried to de-escalate the situation because I couldn't get out. I didn't know where to go. I couldn't even just leave. Like, all I wanted to do was just leave. I just wanted to do
where Trisha is.
I don't know.
I'm laughing at his acting job. I mean, he's not even good at it. It is challenging to get a conviction when there's no body. It's a challenge, but it can be done. In this instance, the detective was able to... He's making an admission, ultimately, about what happened, and it was enough for us now to charge him with second-degree murder, based on that statement.
The county attorney called a meeting, and we discussed it. You know, what did we want to do? How badly did we want to find her? That decision was important because I think I could have spent the rest of my life thinking about where she was. It would have tortured the boys too, her brothers, when she was grown. Stephen had a very manipulative personality. He obviously knew exactly where she was. I just wanted to find her body. Even if they had to make a deal with him, it was more important to the family to get her body back.
He had something that the parents wanted. Terrible position that they were put in, and they were quite courageous in their decision, frankly. So we collectively decided that the number was going to be 35 years in prison. I was fully expecting, okay, we're going to have a recovery of a body. There is obviously, going to be decomposed remains of that at this point. It's roughly a month later. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that it was going to end up being what it was. Once the plea deal was accepted by the judge, Mr. Williams' lawyer explained to me for the exhumation of the remains of Trisha Todd, we were going to need a hazmat team. And I talking about. And he explained to me that we'll find that she has been dissolved in acid. And he went on to tell me that he had dismembered her, removing all of her teeth and also removing all of her fingertips. It was terrible.
How far down are we going?
2.5 feet.
Okay. It's about 2.5 feet down? Okay. And there's no way it could be any back further, or you're certain this is it here?
This will be it.
Okay.
He is just bringing us to the remains of Trisha. I got the sense that he just didn't want to be there. This guy. And then on the bank, saw teeth where Mr. Williams dropped some teeth as apparently before he was able to actually throw them into the water. Just a terrible, terrible moment. I'd never seen anything like that and hope that I never do again.
Well, what he had done was to dismember her with a chainsaw that he bought at least a month earlier, and then he put her in a Rubbermaid tub. Yeah, it was.
It was our understanding that he was having to pay child support. That was certainly something that he did not want to have to be responsible for. I would say that, unfortunately, people have killed for less. After it was all said and done and further done by investigators with the Air Force, it was discovered that on some of Mr. Williams' computers at work on the Air Force Base had been utilized for research in terms of methodologies of killing and acid. And he had also purchased the chemicals, had the plastic. He would have had to drive many hundreds of miles from North Carolina to Hobe Sound with all of this in his car. It explains why when offered the polygraph exam, he initially said no. Then it explained this was definitely a heightened premeditated event for sure. Thought out, planned out. He had the whole thing worked out. It doesn't matter because we cut a deal and we have to live with it. No one would cut deals with prosecutors if you didn't agree to follow through on what you promised to do. The plea deal in this case was to really got under our skin. This wasn't justice. Not for Trisha. The Air Force has a slam dunk first-degree murder case. Can't lose. Stephen Williams, yeah, he's serving prison time. He's doing 35 years. But in 2046, he wins. Stephen Williams played us. And he played on Trisha's parents. He knew that they were going to jump at wanting the body.
That people have evil in them. And a lot of people disagree with that. I got one tattoo after Trisha died, tattooed on my ribs, and to remind myself to always try. And to me, that carries the same function that forgiving people does for other people. It's been rough. It's hard on the brain going through the stress, and I think some of us make it a point to not dwell on the past, but yeah.
There wasn't much of her left to bury. We had her cremated, and she was just in this little box. The little Air Force sticker on the top. But I don't focus on what was left of her. I know where she is. I know she wanted to get married again. She wanted to have a happy family. She actually bought this wedding dress at a thrift store, which I thought was very ugly. Didn't tell her so, but I thought, Trisha, no. And after she died, and I found out what happened to her, and that's when God thought I gotta try not to cry. He didn't take her away forever, because I intend to go to heaven too, and I will have her forever and ever and ever. He did not take her away forever. Right around here's where he buried her. It might have been right up there. This is kind of a place Trisha would have liked. She was a very outdoor person. Not that she'd want her final remains here, but this is a kind of place she would have liked to visit it. Sometimes I just like to kind of...
The feast eternal. No one remembered when the rain had stopped. Perhaps it never did. Perhaps it simply became the air itself, a constant dampness. The taste of rust that lingered on the tongue. The scent of decay that clung to every wall in Blackvale. Time had dissolved here. For those who once lived, and for those who no longer could. Elior Hayes stood at the edge of the town, where the old bridge curved over the swollen river. Beneath it, something shimmered a pulse, faint but rhythmic, as if the earth itself were breathing. His eyes had changed since that night with Adrian. Pale now, almost silver in the moonlight. His heartbeat matched the one beneath the ground. He hadn't aged in years. He hadn't eaten in days. And he no longer knew if either fact mattered. Some called it a curse. Adrian had called it communion. The first time he heard the voice again, it came from the water. You've been starving yourself again. He didn't turn. Adrian's voice no longer startled him. It was everywhere now, in the drip of rain from rooftops, in the whisper of leaves, in the echo that hummed through bone and memory alike. I'm not hungry, Elior muttered. Liar. The reflection in the water shifted. Adrian's face appeared, serene as ever, eyes like dark glass. You can deny the hunger, but it never leaves. It only grows. It's not a need, Elior. It's a promise. I didn't ask for this, Elior said, his voice trembling. Neither did I. But we were chosen by what came before us. The reflection smiled faintly. Do you want to know who built this town? Elior turned then, staring at the ruins across the bridge, the old Vale Asylum, long devoured by moss and time. The asylum had burned down decades ago, yet the flames still lived in rumor. They said the doctor who founded it worshipped something older than God, something that demanded flesh in exchange for knowledge. Elior had always dismissed it as myth. Until now. He walked through the ruins at nightfall, his footsteps echoing against the crumbling stone. Symbols marked the walls, half circles, spirals, and the same brand he'd once seen burned into the victim's skin. At the center of the main hall stood a stone altar, cracked and slick with moisture. Upon it, a single candle flickered to life as he entered, and behind it Adrian. This time, not reflection, not illusion. He stood there in flesh, or something like it, perfect, unblemished, eyes alive with that same impossible calm. "You came home," Adrian said softly. Elior stepped forward, numb. "You're not real." Adrian smiled. "Reality is such a fragile thing, my love." When Adrian reached out, Elior didn't resist. His hand was cold but familiar, like marble soaked in moonlight. "They wanted eternity," Adrian whispered. "The founders of Black Veil, the doctors, the priests, the artists. They sought it through science, through faith, through art. But they all misunderstood." He pressed Elior's hand to his chest. Beneath the ribs, there was no heartbeat, only stillness, deep and resonant. Eternity isn't in worship or creation. It's in consumption, in union, in what remains after the body is gone. Elior shook his head, stepping back. "You turned it into murder." "No," Adrian said. "I turned it into meaning." He gestured to the walls, to the painted faces of every person they had ever devoured. "Each one of them lives in us now. Every whisper, every memory, every heartbeat that was taken, all of it still echoes here. Isn't that what love is, Elior? To never let go." Elior's breath trembled. "If this is love, then it's hell." Adrian smiled faintly. "Then let hell be ours." Lightning tore through the sky, illuminating the carvings on the altar. There were 2 names etched in the stone: A. Veil, E. Haze, and beneath them, an inscription in Latin: Eternum per carnum, eternity through flesh. Adrian moved closer. "The town is dying. The hunger needs renewal. You know what must be done." Elior stared at him. "You want me to feed again." Adrian's voice softened. "Not want, need. Without it, we fade. Without it, everything we've become dissolves into nothing." Elior's eyes burned. "Then let it fade. I'd rather die than live as this." Adrian leaned in, his whisper trembling with something almost like sadness. "There is no dying for us anymore." He pressed his forehead against Elior's. "The feast begins tonight." The next hours blurred like a fever dream. The ground trembled. The air thickened. The town's bells, long silent, began to toll, one by one. People emerged from their homes, drawn by something primal and unseen. Their eyes were glassy, their movements slow, reverent. At the center of the town square, Adrian stood with arms outstretched, his voice rising above the storm. "For decades, you've fed on lies, on greed, on one another. Tonight, you feed on truth." Elior watched in horror as the townspeople fell to their knees. Their mouths opened, but no sound came, only a low hum, the same rhythm as the pulse beneath the earth. And from the cracks in the cobblestones, dark liquid began to rise, thick, red, warm. Blood. The river of it flowed toward Adrian, circling him like worship. He turned to Elior, eyes gleaming. "Join me. You are the bridge between what was and what will be." Elior's knees gave out. "What have you done?" Adrian smiled. "I've kept my promise." The feast began. Elior didn't remember the first scream, only the last, a sound like air escaping from the lungs of the world. He watched as the townspeople tore into one another, their faces serene, as though in prayer. The blood soaked the ground, and the pulse beneath it grew stronger, feeding. Elior tried to run, but the air itself held him in place. Adrian's voice filled his mind, his veins, his heartbeat. "You can't run from what you are. You were chosen long before you met me." He looked down, his hands were drenched in crimson. He hadn't realized he was holding a knife. And in front of him Adrian, arms open, smiling. "If you love me, end it. Complete it. Become one." Elior screamed as he drove the blade into Adrian's chest. But there was no blood, only light, blinding, white, consuming. The world shattered around them. The town crumbled into dust. When Elior opened his eyes again, he was standing in the same place, the square empty, silent, washed clean. No bodies, no blood, only rain. And across from him, Adrian's figure dissolved into mist. "You see," the whisper came, echoing from nowhere and everywhere. "The hunger was never mine. It was ours. Years passed. The town was rebuilt by strangers who knew nothing of its past. They said it was cursed, but no one could ever prove why. Sometimes, at night, when the rain falls just right, Locals say they hear music a low hum, like two voices singing in harmony. And in the heart of the rebuilt square, beneath the cobblestones, lies a faint inscription worn smooth by time. E.H.+A.V. Eternum per carnum. Elior Hayes walks still, somewhere between dream and waking. He wears the same black coat, the same hollow eyes. Some say he's looking for redemption. Others say he's looking for Adrian. But those who've seen him claim one thing never changes: the faint red glow in his reflection, and the soft voice whispering behind him in the rain. We are what we eat, and love is eternal. The red rain. It began with the rain again. Not the soft kind that whispered on rooftops, but a red rain, thick and slow, falling like tears from a wounded sky. Those who lived in Blackvale didn't scream. They simply watched, silent, as the droplets stained their skin and melted into the soil. No one remembered when the town had last seen the sun, but they remembered the stories. The story of the butcher who loved, the story of Elior Hayes, the detective who became something not quite human, and Adrian Vale, the artist who painted his sins in flesh and devotion. They had become more than legend now. They had become the town itself. Centuries had passed, or perhaps none at all. Time didn't exist in Blackvale anymore. It looped like a record warped by grief, playing the same melody: love, hunger forever. Every generation built upon the ruins of the last. Every generation whispered the same warning: never stay when the rain turns red. And yet they always did. A stranger arrived one such night, a young journalist named Lucien Hart, sent from the city to write about the cursed town of Blackvale. He didn't believe the old tales, of course. To him, myths were just echoes of something science hadn't explained yet. But the moment he crossed the old bridge, his radio went silent. His car engine died. The fog grew thicker, swallowing the world behind him. He walked through the town square, recording his voice notes. The place is empty, abandoned, but not ruined. The buildings are intact, like someone's been maintaining them. No signs of wildlife, no electricity. And there's this humming sound. It's coming from underground. He paused, listening. Thunder rolled. The rain began again, soft, then heavier, until it fell in red sheets that smeared across his notebook. Jesus. It's red. The rain is. The recording cut out. Hours later, Lucien found shelter in an old manor at the edge of town. The door creaked open as if expecting him. Inside, the air smelled faintly of wine and candle wax. On the walls hung portraits, hundreds of them. Faces he didn't recognize, but all somehow familiar. He shone his flashlight across one painting and froze. The plaque beneath it read, Detective Elior Hayes, 1892. The portrait showed a man in a black coat, eyes pale and distant, his expression a strange mix of sorrow and calm. In the next frame, another man, handsome, with dark hair and a faint smile. Adrian Vale, 1890. Their hands nearly touched between the canvases. Lucien felt something cold crawl beneath his skin. Who's painting these? He whispered. We are, a voice answered behind him. He turned. Two figures stood by the window. The rain bled down the glass behind them. One wore a coat that shimmered like wet ink. The other, a black suit flecked with crimson light. Their faces were unchanged from the portraits. Elior and Adrian. Lucien stumbled back, dropping his recorder. This can't be real, he gasped. Elior tilted his head. Reality is what we leave behind when we stop fearing what we are. Adrian's voice followed, soft and melodic. You came for truth, so come closer. Taste it. Lucien backed toward the door. To just came to write, to remember, Adrian finished. That's why they all come. Elior stepped forward, eyes glimmering like frost. You wanted to tell our story, then become it. The lights flickered. The air pulsed like a heartbeat. The walls began to bleed. Lucien screamed as his vision blurred, every heartbeat a flash of someone else's memory. He saw Elior holding Adrian's hand under a storm. He saw the first feast. He saw Blackvale sinking beneath its own hunger. And he saw himself sitting at a table, pen in hand, smiling as he wrote. When the lights steadied, he was no longer standing. He was seated at the table in the center of the manor, a glass of red wine before him. Elior sat across from him, Adrian at his side. Drink, Adrian said gently. Lucien stared. What is it? Elior smiled faintly. It's memory. Lucien lifted the glass. His hand trembled. He drank, and the world split open. He remembered everything. Every life, every death, every scream buried beneath the cobblestones. He saw what Blackvale truly was, not a town, but a vessel, a body that fed on the souls within it. Elior and Adrian were not its masters. They were its heart. Every century, the cycle began again. A visitor would come, drawn by curiosity, arrogance, or grief. The town would open its mouth, whispering in rain and rust, and the visitor would feed the hunger anew. Lucien's voice cracked. Why me? Adrian smiled, leaning close. Because you wanted to understand, and understanding always demands a price. Elior placed a hand on Lucien's shoulder. The feast must continue. It's how the world remembers what love truly costs. Lucien's breath hitched. I don't want this. You didn't have to, Elior murmured. Blackvale chooses. Morning came gray and silent. The rain had stopped. When the next travelers arrived months later, they found the manor pristine, its door slightly ajar. Inside sat a new portrait, a man in a journalist's coat, his eyes empty, a faint smile on his lips. The plaque beneath it read, Lucien Hart the Chronicler. And beside him, in the shadows, stood two older paintings. Elior and Adrian both now turned slightly toward him, as if welcoming a third. The town endured. The red rain would return, and every time it fell, someone would whisper the same words. He fed the town, and the town fed him back. They say if you walk the bridge at midnight, you can hear 3 sets of footsteps, one slow, one graceful, one new. And if you listen closely, you can hear laughter not cruel, but intimate, echoing through the mist. The legend of Blackvale became a story passed between truck drivers, journalists, wanderers, lovers. Some called it a ghost tale, some a curse, but those who came close enough to the truth never told it again. Because to tell the story was to remember, and to remember was to become part of it. Beneath the earth, the pulse still beats. 2 voices whisper together, one steady, one soft, entwined in devotion. We are what we eat. We are what we love. And love, in the end, consumes everything. The rain falls red again, and in the distance, under the broken clock tower, a new candle flickers to life. A new painting begins. A new name waits to be written. The Blackvale Archives, Eternal Appendix. Recovered File 001. Source, Department of Local History, Northshire Region. Case Tag, Blackvale Anomaly U13. Status, Restricted. Note, the following materials were recovered from beneath the ruins of the old Blackvale Asylum during unauthorized excavation in 2023. Warning, exposure to full text causes auditory hallucinations, recurring dreams, and compulsive hunger in test subjects within 72 hours. Audio transcript, 1893. Speaker, Detective Elior Hayes. Condition, wax cylinder, degraded. I hear them again tonight. The walls. They breathe when I'm alone. Adrian says the town remembers everything. Sometimes I see faces in the rain. They're smiling. I think they know what we've done. Pause, sound of dripping water. If anyone finds this, leave. Don't follow the hum. Don't listen to the song. End of recording. Faint whispering in background, to voices overlapping. We are what we love, and love always eats. Field Report, 1927. Subject, witness account Martha L. Eden, age 71. It was midsummer, yet the sky was the color of ash. My husband said he saw 2 men by the bridge, one pale as bone, the other dark-haired and smiling. They weren't walking, not really. Their feet didn't touch the ground. When they passed, the fish in the river floated belly up, and the rain turned pink. Filed, hallucination due to swamp gas or trauma. Diary fragment, 1950, to found in an empty home near Vale Street. The paintings won't stop changing. I painted my mother last week. Today her eyes are open. Sometimes I wake with paint under my fingernails, red paint. I haven't owned red pigment in years. Last night, I saw them through the window. The lovers. They were standing in the garden, watching me sleep. I think they're proud of me. Internal memo, 1971. Blackvale Regional Police. Officer O'Connell reports that a missing journalist, Lucien Hart, may have entered Blackvale prior to the flood of 1971. A typewriter was recovered from the old Vale Manor. Every key was fused except one, the letter L. On the ribbon, a single line repeated 27 times. I found them. They found me. I remember now. Case photograph undated. Image description: a long dining table set for 3. Plates filled with raw meat. 2 chairs occupied. The third empty. Handwritten on the back: for the next to arrive. Excerpt Journal of Proof. Harold Kress, 1986. University of Sheffield, Department of Occult Anthropology. Blackvale may not exist as a physical town anymore. Cartographic archives after 1938 list only a floodplain and reclamation zone. Yet it continues to appear on meteorological maps whenever red rainfall is reported. Later entry: I've analyzed the rainfall samples. Not blood. Not water either. A protein composite, human DNA strands intertwined. Every test yields to genetic signatures. Final note: Hayes and Vale, always together. Molecular devotion. Email chain, 2007 from redacted@journalnet.com. Subject: Ray. Pitch the lovers who ate a town. Got a story from a local kid near the ruins. Says his granddad saw the Blackvale ghosts dancing in the rain. Says they looked happy. Says one of them whispered his name. The weird part? His name's Lucian too. Police recording, 2012 emergency dispatch log. Caller, unidentified woman. Location, near Vale Bridge. Transcript partial. Please, there's something in the fog. I see the people walking toward me. No, not walking, floating. Their eyes, screaming, static. They said they've been waiting. They said my heart. Signal lost. Follow-up note. Responding officers reported no sign of caller. Found puddle of red fluid. Tested negative for hemoglobin. Classified as contaminated rainwater. Handwritten letter, 2018, no return address. To whoever finds this. I came to write about Blackvale like everyone before me. The rain started on my 3rd night. I saw the paintings. They move when you're not looking. He was there, the pale man in the coat. He said my words would feed the story. That's how the town lives, through stories. He said the only way to keep them contained is to keep telling it. So I am. Final line written in red ink. The town feeds itself through us now. Audio file, 2023 smartphone recording found in flood debris. The sound of rain. A low hum, almost melodic. 2 voices overlapping, male, soft, intimate. It's raining again. It always rains here. Do you think they'll remember us? They already do. They just don't know it yet. How long will we keep feeding it? As long as they keep telling our story. Pause. Say it again. We are what we love. And love never ends. Silence, followed by faint laughter, and the sound of 3 footsteps fading into water. Final entry, lab note, undated, signed E.H. I thought love would save me from the hunger, but love was the hunger. We devoured the world and became its echo. I can feel new voices beneath the soil now. They hum when it rains. Soon, someone else will arrive. They'll call it a myth. They'll take notes. They'll listen too closely. When they do, tell them the truth. The town doesn't eat people. People feed the town. Postscript, classified addendum. Audio spectrogram data. Analyzed recordings of Blackvale rainfall frequencies sampled 2024. Under spectral analysis, every raindrop emits dual tones when slowed to 0.3x speed. The patterns align with human speech phonemes forming a sentence. We remember you. Closing note. No trace of Blackvale remains on modern maps, but during certain storms, drivers on the Northshire Highway report seeing a faint town glowing in the distant streetlights, flickering, rain falling red, and 2 silhouettes standing on a bridge. If you stop, the lights vanish. If you keep driving, you may hear a voice whisper inside the car. You came to listen. Now you belong.